Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, Super Bowl Super Bowl edition. We're in that weird little fog stage of the Super Bowl's finished. We're still a few weeks away from the draft. Danny boy, how are you feeling, mate? Just on the come down, everything's kind of relaxed now, but we're still, I feel like, still very much in Super Bowl mode.
Oh, for sure. And what an amazing day that we had with NFL Australia. Huge shout out to them and Hickens Hotel. The amount of people that we saw there and partied with, watched the game, it was just elite. Such an incredible experience.
Charlie, how are you feeling, mate? This is a very, very straight into you kind of question, and I apologise. Out of the three of us, the one who is probably realistically the most chance of making the Super Bowl, watching a game like that, how have you felt the last few days?
Pretty flat. That's safe to say. And not just because I came down with an outrageous cold on the day, couldn't go to the party, was stuck at work in a room doing Zooms all day because I couldn't communicate with anyone else. And then watching this game where you saw a team that weren't ready for prime time. They weren't Super Bowl ready.
Facts.
And that was really hard because we were, the Bills were a play short on the day. That was a game they should have won. The season, everyone does this at the end of the season, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but this was one where it could easily have been the Bills. I kind of think the Seahawks would have won.
Yeah,
I think their defense was so good that I still think the Seahawks probably would have beaten the Bills, but it would have been a game. Yeah, Josh Allen against that defense would have been fun to watch, as opposed to Drake May. I really feel like some of the MVP voters are going to go back and reassess their votes after watching that game.
For sure. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole season is when teams that didn't make it, almost made it, then talk about how much their team would have succeeded in the Super Bowl. We've been to review the Super Bowl with the two teams that actually made it, but instead we got to bring the Bills in.
I don't know about you boys, but if Micah Parsons had kept playing, the Packers would have been right in there.
If Von Miller hadn't done his ACL 2 years ago, then the Bills would have won that Super Bowl. Let's not play that game.
It would be three-time champions. I don't think anyone can suggest that the Seahawks weren't worthy winners. They were up there all season, and they really shone on the day. Their defense, Ken Walker, they were elite. But both defenses, really, it was very, Danny boy, real defense-heavy type of Super Bowl. We were so optimistic, and I think it came out with a lot of the bets that we had, that it was going to be both offenses were going to work each other out, but it just didn't happen on the day. And I think a lot of people were a little bit flat on how the actual game played out.
Yeah, I think for a casual fan, it would have been quite hard to watch. My old man watched the whole game, and he's still confused on why I do an NFL podcast. So the fact that he actually sat down and watched the whole game, is a massive thing. And he was just that game was boring. And I think as a casual fan, it would be. But you watch this Seattle defense and that front four put so much pressure on Drake May consistently, sacked, 6+ times, forced turnovers 3 times. Watching this defense, this is a defense where, and I hate to say this already because it's so early, this is a defense you can see actually running it back. If they keep their whole defense and keep Mike McDonald as the head coach who's so defensive-minded, that is a team, defense wins championships, and we've said it all year, and Seattle just gone out and proved us right, which is a crazy thing. It's always nice to be right, isn't it, when we're saying these wild accusations on podcasts? But it was clearly that, this defense... I think the defense as a whole should have won the MVP, or at least someone on the defense, maybe Witherspoon, because of how many pressures he did put on Drake May as a cornerback too. He's coming in deep to put all those pressures on. I don't think it really should have gone to Ken Walker. Ken Walker, his only touchdown that he scored got reversed anyway. It was a great play, offensive holding, got called back, but not the point. I think someone on the defense really should have won the MVP for this game.
I think that is a good point because it was the defensive story on the day. Walker kind of set a tone. I felt like he established that it was going to be hard for the Patriots defense all day. He was actually keeping it, I don't know. It meant that the Patriots defense never got in the same rhythm, as a defensive unit that the Seahawks did. What I love about the Seahawks defense, everyone's talking about them, comparing them to the Legion of Boom already. They're probably not quite at that level yet, but they've got the nickname. You know, they're the dark side. And it's like, I just go, all right, they have a brand. Like they have an identity, they have a brand. And we do this every year. A team looks good in the Super Bowl and they go, oh, they're going to run it back, they're unstoppable. and it almost never works out that way. But it is a unit that's quite young. You know, the pieces there, it's not like the D-line's aging out and they've got to replace them, or, you know, they've actually, as a whole, you can see most of it holding together next year and going forward, and they've got a lot to build on. It depends, I think the question about the Seahawks is they're losing Kubiak as their OC. What's their succession plan there? Who is going to be the Darnold whisperer next year? These are all interesting questions. But on the day, as you say, for the regular punter, it's not, for the outside punter, it's not really the most entertaining game. But it was great to watch, and it was that thing of the difference was Seattle could get down and score field goals. They were in the game to score field goals, and you just saw them just putting it on consistently. And it's amazing. You see a team up 6-0, and you're going, "Oh, they've got this." Yeah. Like that was the interesting thing to watch it going. I never really felt like Seattle was in trouble once.
Yeah, I've seen Pats fans say that they were more nervous when Seattle were 12-0 up than when Brady was down, 28-3 or against the Falcons. They were more nervous facing the Seattle defense that were just kicking field goals, which is crazy. That just shows how strong this defense was. And also, shout out to special teams. Kicking those field goals, and Michael Dixon, he was almost on track for getting an MVP with some of those punts that he had.
He was going to be my Smokey for MVP because it made such a difference. It really dictated.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
But it really did put the Patriots under pressure every time he punted, and that was just. It showed what a difference a punter can make in a big game, and what special teams can make.
And there was a couple of times even with the field goals where he got he got the ball and it was like a really bad throw to him, and he kind of fumbled it and still managed to get it up to get those field goals. The field goal kicker got 5 field goals in the game as well, which is a Super Bowl record.
Is it just me? Does he have the most AFL drop punt style, kicking style in the NFL? There was one where it really looked like he was on the run, giving it to someone on the wing.
He nearly got smothered. Aussie term for this. And nearly got smothered in it and absolutely line drived it right down and still managed to bounce inside the 5, then out of bounds.
Yeah.
He's the best punter in the league. He's the reason that he's getting paid the most out of all the punters. And shout out to him being another Aussie and bringing home another Super Bowl ring for us Aussie boys here.
And you're spot on with him he's the best punter in the league. He's the longest tenured Seahawks player at the moment. And you make a great point about, he had 7 punts. I think he averaged 53, 54 yards or something like that, which is outrageous. Put 4 or 5 inside the 10, just nothing but pressure on him all day. But he also had those 5 holes, like you said. So he's touched the ball 10, 12 times during the game in crucial moments and just putting pressure back on the Patriots. And that's where Drake May didn't fall apart, but he felt the pressure and just wasn't able to get to that stage that he has throughout the season. But besides that one game against the Bills, I don't think he's had that kind of pressure all season though, Charles.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. And moving on now to the quarterbacks. On one side, the Seahawks, you would say that it wasn't Darnold's. It wasn't nowhere near the game that he played the previous week.
No, he just did what he had to.
But he did what he had to. He didn't make mistakes, which is the important thing. And they actually had a game plan that took pressure off him in the Super Bowl in a lot of ways. He didn't have to go out and win the game for them. The defense was doing the job. And on the other side of the ball, the inability of the Patriots to protect Drake May, he just got hit so many times, sacked. How many sacks was it? Was it 6 sacks? Did he get sacked 6 times on the day?
I rember
There's a lot.
Commentator saying at least 6 at one point, so I don't know if it was any more than that.
But there was sacks, forced fumbles. He was under pressure all day.
For a pick 6.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. And
his arm got slapped.
And it's like you say, a lot was made of the Patriots having an easier schedule this season. And I think if you make the Super Bowl, you make the Super Bowl. I think people can stop complaining. By the time you get there, you can stop complaining about the schedule. But you would say that he didn't have a season where he had to work. Like you say, T-Mac, he wasn't pressured like that at all this year. And it kind of showed that he does have a long way to go. He was great after the game, I thought. Like, he was devastated with how the game went. But unlike so many quarterbacks that I've heard, even just this season, who were blaming teammates or blaming other factors, he put it on himself and said, that's me, I need to be better. And so you think, he's got a good mindset, but I think we came out of this saying the MVP runner-up has a long way to go.
Yeah, and we just, had an easy run, but then you look at the playoffs and where he faced the Chargers, good defense, and he struggled. The Texans, elite defense, struggled. And then the Broncos, he still struggled when he was playing up in Denver. Yes, that was the snow globe game, and anything really could have happened in that game. But you watch him when he was playing those tougher teams, and he looked like a second-year player. And that's the thing. He is a second-year player. And it's really interesting when you look at second-year quarterbacks that have made it to the Super Bowl on their second year, none of them have made it back. We're talking the names of, Brock Purdy, Joey B. There's a full list of players that
Marino
and Colin Kaepernick. There's a full list of these elite quarterbacks that have done really well and made it in their second year, but then kind of fallen off a little bit. And it's just going to be interesting to see if he has the mindset and ability, and Mike Vrabel has the smarts to turn this team around and bring him back again.
I thought Vrabel had an interesting job to do from about halfway through this game, I thought. The Patriots obviously were still playing to win. Anything can happen in a game of football. But if you were paying attention to his body language, the way that he was connecting with players, every time it cut to him, he was almost consoling a little bit. He was gentler than he normally is with his players a few times that I saw. And it was almost like he understood what was going on. And he was like, I have to make sure this team is mentally okay out of this. Or, that this isn't the kind of psychological shock by about the halfway through the Super Bowl where they realise they're losing this game. That either he keeps them in the game or he keeps them ready to bounce back, for next year, rather than being a team that, and we've seen it before, teams that maybe are a bit lucky to get to a Super Bowl and just have their ass handed to them, and then they never get back there. And it is hard to get to a Super Bowl. I think he's got an interesting job, Vrabel, of keeping that together.
We spoke about how, the Seahawks look good, and Danny's already called them for next year's Super Bowl. On the other side, how much do we look at that easy run that they've had all season as well, and they had it into the playoffs? We were kind of deflecting away from it, saying you still got to beat the teams that you got to play, but did it kind of show, Danny boy, during the game that maybe that easy run was just that, and they, like you just said, Charles, they were lucky to, not lucky, but they had some fortune go their way during the season, which propelled them into the Super Bowl, but kind of got showed up on the day.
Yeah, well, we were talking the whole year that they were actually a really good defensive-sided team as well. And I feel like the fact that the Seahawks still managed to get into that field goal range, yes, okay, they weren't going down scoring touchdowns every single time. It actually took quite a long time before there was a touchdown. It was all the way into the second half. But they still were stopping them from getting into the end zone a lot. But the thing that they weren't doing as well, which was putting so much pressure on that O-line and actually stopping the run. Their run defense is one of the best things that we saw all year. And for some reason, that went away in the Super Bowl because Kenneth Walker walked away with the MVP. So I don't really know what happened with the defense on the day, or if it was just a better scheme from the Seahawks. I'm not that worried about the Patriots defense, I don't think, moving into next year. I think, if anything, they're just going to continue to get better. I reckon it was just a better scheme from Seattle on the day.
The one beautiful thing about me being on this Zoom is while you're talking, I can look at a few things and not be shown up on the TV. But, Charles, you know this one better than ever. The AFC East next year, you've got the AFC West, NFC North. Me and you, Charles, get to play each other. And then your 17th games against the NFC West. So, obviously, the NFC West, NFC best, obviously, for those that played this year. But there's three, North and NFC West, two very, very strong divisions. AFC West could be, if the Broncos and that come back again. We're not sure about the Chiefs and what Mahomes is going to do, but he's not going to have that easy run that he had this year against the teams he's playing next year.
Definitely not. And the fact that the Patriots took the 1 seed, which means their NFC West is going to be the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So the game that they have to play is again against the Seahawks.
Surely it's week 1.
It's got to be.
It's got to be. They have to.
And it's interesting
It's
that
going to be week 2 because we'll have the Melbourne game in week 1, which that'll be the highlight game of the weekend.
Yeah, everything will be focused on that. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Maybe it's the first Thursday night.
I was going to say TNF. It feels like a TNF game, like the Bills Ravens was this year.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting. The Chiefs, who knows? Like, who knows what the Chiefs are going to be? But this is the first year in 7 years or 6 years that the Bills get to play the 2 seeds. You know, like.
Oh, you're looking forward to that?
Yeah, you know, like that's
a
tiny bit of I don't know, at least something for coming second. You know,
so the
the
2 seed in the
You've
NFC.
got the Rams.
I was going to say exactly what I was going to say. The 2 seed in the NFC West is the Rams, which were like arguably probably the better team.
I mean, they were my tip. Bills Rams was my Super Bowl tip from the start of the year. So yeah, maybe it's not that easy. But yeah, I think
maybe that'll be the first Thursday night game. That'll be better than what we watched on the weekend.
But I think what we look forward to next year is it's a very different year for the Patriots, and I do think they've got to figure some things out. That Josh McDaniels, that was just not a good game. Like, you know, as an OC, a guy who's used to OCing big games, that was a really tough watch from their offense. Like that was really, they've got some things to figure out. So I don't think the Pats have got the kind of year, and you would say it's unlikely that they go 9-0 on the road again next year. That was kind of an incredible achievement of theirs this year, and it's unlikely to happen again.
It was almost until the 4th quarter in the Super Bowl where they're like, all right, Jake May, you just need to sling the ball. And like what? He had almost, was it no passing yards in the first half, then 295 in the second? Like that, they should have just let him sling the ball like from the start. And like, I don't know if that was nerves from Drake May's point of view or if it was like the scheme that the Patriots had cooking for him, but almost just like let him play free. I think we would have had a more exciting game, but there was so much pressure on him. So we
called it. We said he has to throw the ball around for this game to be a game, which it was, you know, looking back, it was probably nearly cooked at halftime already. But you say it was a tough coaching game for him. Like I said, just looking at these stats now from the Seahawks, confirmed 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, but they also had 6 pass deflections and 11 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
So he only ended up throwing the ball, well, he threw it 43 times in the end, but nearly 20 of those times he was under pressure or being tackled. Like, for a second-year quarterback, that is tough. And Darnold kind of showed, yes, he didn't have that game, but he can walk 130 yards on the ground. We keep saying that Danny, you keep saying the defense deserved it. Anyone who's getting 130 yards on the ground, like, they've played a game. They've done their role, which he made that a hell of a lot easier for Darnold to do than just, you know, he only threw for 200 yards, but he only needed to throw for 200 yards. They were always going to, I couldn't believe the line for field goals was 1.5. They are always taking points when they're on for offer. So he didn't need to have that kind of game, but he still showed that level head of a 4th, 5th-year quarterback that's been through 53 of the 54 teams that we've got in the league. He just played a real solid game, and I think the real losers out of this game is the Minnesota Vikings for getting rid of him.
Oh, absolutely. And they would be kicking themselves just looking at that and thinking that they had a better option at quarterback than Darnold, that they thought Darnold had a ceiling that he'd hit and was never going to get past. There's a very interesting thing about Sam Darnold, which is he, up until now, was almost getting a journeyman status. He played at, you know, the Jets, the Panthers, the Niners.
He's 100% a journeyman.
Yeah.
Five teams. That's huge.
Yeah, I know, but in a really short space of time. Normally a journeyman's like, it's a longer, he's spent more years in league. He's still relatively young for someone who's played at 5 teams, but he's played in 5 systems. He's learned under 5 different, he's like learned 5 different playbooks. He's done time in a Shanahan scheme. He has learned different ways of playing this game. And I think when you've been in, there are quarterbacks who would have been at one team for 5 years, whilst they've had consistency and comfortability, they probably don't have as many tools in the toolbox as he has. They probably aren't quite as well versed in different ways of approaching an offensive game as Darnold has. So I think there's ways that he has benefited, not just from the experience, not just of being rejected and having to work his way back and earn it and not have an ego. He's also just learnt in different ways from different coaches, and he would have a much different perspective. I think it's a really interesting story, Sam Darnold at quarterback.
And he's managed to figure out like his problem when he's seeing ghosts. I don't know who he went and saw to get the ability to stop seeing ghosts, but like he performed in a big game. Like he didn't make any silly mistakes, and through the whole way through the playoffs, really, like it was watching a different player to when he was playing for the Vikings last year, I think, in the playoffs. Like, you know, when he's playing for the Vikings, still a 14-3 team, absolutely like dominated while he was there, and then as soon as he got to the playoffs, he kind of disappeared. Where this time he's proved he's in a new team. First year that he's playing for Seattle as well. First year, and he's managed to figure it all out, go to the Super Bowl, and walk away with a ring. It's crazy. It is a crazy story.
So last year, I'm just thinking he had JJ, he had Addison, Jones. This year, he's got Smith and Jigba, Walker. Which is a better offense? What he was playing with out of those two?
Well, on paper, like, I don't know, like you're looking at JJ versus JSN, like that's pretty close. But then, like, yeah, the Cooper Cup, versus Addison. Like, Cup's obviously a veteran who's gone to the Super Bowl, won a ring. Kenneth Walker's obviously better on the ground than Aaron Jones. Like, it is a really, like, to me, you could almost
flip
pretty even.
That's a draw. I think they cancel each other out. So you have to say it comes down to OC, but also a head coach. Like, there's something about the whole operation. It's Seattle. There's, you know, I think they run that organization to win maybe a bit better than the Vikings do. Like, that's so intangible. It's not, there's no stats or anything there, but the offense is kind of, one isn't necessarily insanely more talented than the other.
And at the end of the day, the Seahawks have a better GM because they brought in Sam Darnold rather than letting him walk.
Yeah.
For 4/5 of nothing. What about, so you brought up this. I've got a couple questions to throw at you boys before we call this a day and head into the new season, into the NFL draft in, I believe it'll be at the end of April. You mentioned it before about, we've spoken about the Patriots going to be a tough season next year. Danny, you've called the Seahawks making the Super Bowl next year already. They're paying about $6 to win it, so that's a bit too low for me already, I won't lie. But Charles, you mentioned losing the OC. I can't think of a team that has lost the OC and then really come out next year and been just as good. So, two parts of this question is for you, Charles. How are they going to go without, Kubiak there, and how are the Raiders going to go with Kubiak?
Oh, they're two very different questions. I put a bit of time into Kubiak because I was hoping that he could end up head coach at the Bills when they started their search. I don't think you ever really know how someone's going to go as a head coach. They can be the best OC in the world or DC in the world, and they can just fall apart. Look at Josh McDaniels. Like, everything about him as an OC says he knows what he's doing, and obviously completely incompetent as a head coach. And he's going to... I think that depends what the Raiders do with their number one pick. So this is... I'm already...
Surely they're going Mendoza.
Yeah, isn't Mendoza paying like $0.00005? Like, it's almost even money. Like,
in a lot of places, he's not even on there.
Yes, but I would say this. Who is next in the draft after Vegas? You got the Jets, basket case, need a quarterback. Browns, basket case, need a quarterback. And who else? There's someone else in there that needs a quarterback.
You're saying Justin Fields and Shador Sanders are not elite quarterbacks? Is that what you're dropping on us?
I might be saying that. Yeah, I might be saying that indeed. But what I'm saying is it depends. Mendoza looks obvious, but what if they don't? Because Mendoza, let's say, Mendoza had a great season this year, but it's a year when he's the only quarterback that looks like he could be a starting quarterback. Maybe he's a middle-of-the-pack NFL quarterback if everything goes well. What if they do something smarter than that? They use that first pick in a different way with someone that's desperate and could make a bad decision. I don't know. I think there's a more interesting strategy there. Depends what Kubiak wants, and depends what Brady wants. It could be difficult. That's a very long answer to say. I think the pieces are there, and they've got a good offense at Seattle. I don't know who they've got as their OC going into next year, but I think what's really hard is a lot of the good OCs have just picked up head coaching jobs.
Yeah,
so that might be the challenge. That
you'd almost expect to be a hire within.
Yeah.
Just like keep someone who's been in the organization to help have some form of consistency. Like you don't really want to shock Sam Darnold and throw someone in. Like we saw it happen with the Eagles. Like the Eagles lost their OC every single year, and you watch Hurts go up and down, and especially at the start of the season under a new OC. Like
and Sirianni take over calling again.
Yeah, it's just like it's the same thing. It's the same thing that keeps on happening year after year. So I'd expect them to hire internally.
Yeah, but I think most importantly, incredibly good head coaching job, and I expect their defense to remain a Super Bowl winning defense. So that means that buys them a little bit. If that defense keeps rolling, they've got time to sort out their offense. I think it's safe to say.
But do you think having a head coach, like he's obviously very defensive minded, if he was an offensive minded, I feel like that would help. Like if they had lost the DC, I reckon having the head coach who favours that side of the ball, bringing someone in underneath, he's going to play the way he wants, or he'll make them play the way he wants. But having a head coach that is leaning towards the defense more than the offense, is that a positive or a negative where you're like, well, the OC can kind of come in and make it his offense, or the fact that you haven't got that overarching, look, he's obviously going to have a part in it, but he doesn't have that side of the ball as his specialty. Is that, do you understand the question I'm trying to ask? I know what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I understand the question you're trying to ask. It's really how big is the problem at OC for the Seahawks?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about whether or not you can win the Super Bowl. And I think that provided they don't hire someone absolutely terrible, it's not a diabolical, disastrous, risky pick, which you can't imagine them doing. They've still got JSN, they've still got Darnold, they've still got Cooper Kupp. They're in good shape.
The one player that they don't have signed on yet is Kenneth Walker. And I don't know if either of you saw this. Sorry to sidetrack from this question, but it's kind of related. He was trying to negotiate his contract during the parade while the GM was drunk.
Yes.
That is genius. That is the smartest thing I think we've ever seen. Like, what a good way. Like, you've just won the Super Bowl. You're the Super Bowl MVP. What a way to get your contract done without getting franchise tag than getting it signed while he's pissed. Like, I'm 95% sure it's illegal, but you miss every shot you don't take.
It's a new version of tampering, that's for sure. That's a different kind of tampering. But you would say, like, worst case scenario, they franchise tag him. Like that
yeah.
And they...
Like
after what he's just done, franchise tag would not be overpaying him as you don't often franchise tag a running back because your top running backs inflate the price of a running back. But
he's the top running back. He just won
he's just done the job. He's definitely
the one at the moment. Like you can't really argue against that. And like otherwise, he's going to get like a big 4-year contract somewhere. So like I can't see Seattle not matching that. And the worst case scenario, they keep him for 2 years. If they're not happy, then try and trade on or move him on. But yeah, he's got to be back, doesn't he? You can't not bring back the MVP.
No,
I think his price went up when Charbonnet went out as well. Like they just showed how much, not rely on him, but you can rely on him. He's scored 3 touchdowns against the San Fran, and just showed that he is and can be the number one without a second running back there. So I do think his numbers have gone up. And I haven't seen that kind of negotiation since, Danny Boy, you were negotiating your contract with me, and I'm pretty sure you got me drunk to do that.
Yeah, and obviously I shouldn't be my own GM because I'm still pretty sure you're paying me zeros at the moment. Yeah. We really need to work on that.
Look at all those zeros, man.
We really need a little restructure on that.
All right, last question before we head off into the new season. And I wanted to ask you this without giving you guys a heads up because I reckon I'll get your honest answer. I want you to blind rank it out of 10 this Super Bowl. 10 being, 28-3 comeback or an overtime kind of win, and a 1 being the 2018 Rams and Patriots just absolute ball fest. Boys, just quickly, out of 10, what is it?
So, like, you're saying we're not ranking it as if it was, like, in the top 10, so, like, number 1's not the best. You're saying, like, rank
a score out of 10.
A score out of 10. A score out of 10. I'm going to give this a solid 3.
Ooh.
Charles? Yeah, I was going to go about a 4.5, 5. 4.5. And It gets to 5 with the Bad Bunny performance at halftime.
Yeah,
I thought that was
fair.
pretty good.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe I want to learn Spanish. It really did. He
Sí.
just inspired me. He inspired me to
Muy
want to learn
bueno.
Spanish.
Muy bueno halftime show.
Yeah, 3 is probably a bit rough, but like you said, you wanted my honest opinion. I just think being like super, like I love a high scoring Super Bowl or a mad comeback. And like as soon as the Patriots kind of had that little bit of a sniff, like, you know, they scored, I was like, oh, sweet, we're going to get it again. And then there was a pick 6. And I was like, all right, sweet, it's all over. At no point did I ever feel like the Patriots were going to win. And that's why I've scored it so low. It was still a great game. I was still stoked Michael Dixon got a ring. Anytime that the Australian is out there playing on the NFL field, like, we love to see it. So my score is really based on the fact that it wasn't that close of a game.
Which is disappointing, but it was a good game for the purists that enjoy watching the game. But as a just a normal everyday fan, which we're getting more and more purists around. Like, I know Danny Boy at the Hickens Hotel, we were talking and shaking hands with a lot of people, and there was a lot of knowledgeable people out there as well. And it just shows that this great game is growing, and this Melbourne game, those tickets are going to be hot property because I've heard there's already over 1 million people on the wait list, Charles.
Well, that's just a good thing that we will definitely get free tickets from the NFL, who are doing such a magnificent job. Just doing such a brilliant job of promoting the game in Australia. NFL Australia, I mean, is there a better sporting organisation in this country?
But just on that, like, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next coming weeks. Sorry, T-Mac, I'm pretty sure I'm going to drop this anyway, but I've started talking, so it's mine. We're going to get Charlotte, who's head of NFL Australia. She's going to come on and explain everything that she's done to get the NFL to come to Melbourne. So it's going to be a massive episode. Hopefully, we get that in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've got lots in the pipeline, but I still do believe. I started with the top of on the top of the show that we're in a little bit of a fog at the moment. It's like that week before or in between Christmas and New Year's where you just don't quite know what to do. We're just waiting for that draft, and we'll start getting to the draft boards, and Charles will drop his top 10 and what are they going to do with number 1 pick. He's just kind of given a bit of an idea today of what he thinks are going to happen. So we've got a lot in the pipeline, so we're going to be very active over the off season.
Do you know,
Danny, I hope you weren't planning on going away too far, because we're going to need you here on the couch pretty much every week.
Do you know what I'd say about this time of year? And I haven't had this experience as a Bills fan. The one thing that makes this time interesting is when you sack a coach, and all of a sudden you're going, oh, there's a whole other there's other stuff to be doing, busying yourself while your team fucking figures themselves out. So I'm keeping busy with that, trying to figure out what the scheme's going to be, who's going to fill what positions. That's a little bit exciting at the moment. So I now know the teams that had a shit season. This is an interesting time of year for them. There's always something to do.
And that's the thing, like, that's the best part about the NFL, and we've seen it time after time. Like, teams can turn their season around in this next couple of weeks, like right before the draft, where they're signing new players, getting new contracts, new coaches, whatever it is. And the best part about the NFL and the scheduling, they try and make it as even as possible. So we can watch these teams turn around, and this is like the prime time to be watching that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to send this out. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahorses on getting the W. And we'll see you. We can almost officially say it's the 2026 season. We're ready to go.
Yep. Go AGS.